Welcome to A More Brilliant Life. We share inspiring stories from people who hit rock bottom, face their challenges, and transform their lives. Learn how you can rise above expectations, discover who you are, and reclaim your future.
So something happened on the trail when I was in Sedona. I got a text from my boss that I needed to call her when I got off. I got off the trail and, I was not real excited about calling her, but because I'm on this resilience retreat, because I'm burned out. But she said, we've had a mistake. Like, we've overpaid you by $4.4 million, and we need you to call us because we can't keep that money. I have a screenshot of my bank account with the $2 million after taxes, whatever.
Okay, let's begin.
Okay.
Welcome, Brie Taralson, to A More Brilliant Life podcast. So glad to have you here today. This is a podcast where we talk through major life pivots, major life transformations, personal transformations, and I love to hear people's stories about, how they got from point A to point B, how the differences that happen internally inside of you as that transition was happening. So really, we're just trying to paint the picture of the life before, during the transition, and after, and kind of get a feel for what that was like for you, and kind of understand the mentality side of it, especially. There's this very deeply ingrained belief in our culture that, like, once you become an adult and you have chosen your career, like, that's it. Like, you have to stay in your lane for the rest of your life, even if you hate it. There's everybody has this idea that I have too much sunken cost into this career. I can't possibly ever pivot into something different. And so I think what that does is it just creates so many zombies in the world where they just hate their lives. They may be doing just fine financially and on the surface, but deep down they're not true. They're not true to themselves. They're not true to their inner being. And so I love highlighting these stories like yourself, Brie, where you kind of saw this vision and followed through with it. So why don't we? I typically start these podcasts like from chronological order. So let's just kind of jump back in time, and let's get a kind of an idea of what your old life was like, what you did in the past, and then we'll go from there.
That sounds great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to share my story, and I'm excited for you and your family. I know we've talked about that too.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm going to start by going way back.
Right.
So when I was a kid, we moved a lot as a kid. So I learned to be flexible, adaptable, and because we never stayed in one place for very long, more than a couple of years. And I think that actually played a pretty big role in being okay with making a big change. But so I'm still figuring out what I want to do when I grow up. So I think of myself as a big kid. I did not know what I wanted to do as I was going through college. I was on the autopilot track. There was an expectation from my family and that I was going to go on after high school to college, and so I knew I wanted to study music. I sang all through high school, college, in community choirs and things like that, even afterwards. But I love music, and it's always been a big part of my just who I am. And so I ended up going to Luther College in northeastern Iowa, and wanted to study music. Figured out pretty quick that I didn't want to do that professionally. But there was, again, this expectation. I have a parent who worked in healthcare, and so I kind of went on the pre-med kind of science track. I was always pretty good at math and science, but it just seemed like the default route. And so, fast forward, I graduated with my degree. I ended up studying abroad while I was in school.
Where did you study? Oh,
studied in Australia.
Cool. Super cool.
Yep, I went to Melbourne, Australia, and I had a chance to backpack around New Zealand and do a lot of traveling just in college. Yeah. And I think through that, I spent a lot of time alone because I've never been afraid to go out by myself to do adventurous things.
That's funny, Brie. I'm currently nearing the end of the Top Five Regrets of the Dying, that book by Bonnie
Mm,
Ware. Have you heard of that book ever? Have
I've
you
heard of
read
it.
it?
I've not
Okay.
read it.
Okay, it's funny because as I'm hearing your story, it's like, oh my God, are you Bonnie Ware? Did you write that book? Because you sound so much like the author, and she's Australian,
Mhm.
and just kind of a similar, um, well, yeah, just kind of a similar story, a similar life arc. It's pretty. The similarities are
I'll have to check.
astounding.
I'll have to read that.
It's really good. Yeah.
So
Uh,
so I don't know. I ended up graduating with a degree in chemistry and political science. The political science because I took some classes when I was abroad about just political science, and it was really interesting to be in a foreign country, like talking about this is post 9/11, so talking about terrorism and about how governments relate to each other, but as an expatriate, a student living and studying about a lot of things that had to do with the U.S. So always piqued my interest. Ended up going on to grad school, getting my degree in my master's in health administration, and worked in healthcare leadership for about a decade
wow.
before finally making this big transition.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So what were some of the ingredients that kind of made you realize that you wanted to make a change and pivot away from healthcare? Like what, a lot of people have to go through kind of a dark period in their lives or some
Yeah.
sort of depressive type, symptoms before they really build up enough courage to actually make that leap and jump out of their current profession. But was that at all similar to what you experienced? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I went through a period of depression and anxiety. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I think we all struggle to some degree. Like there's some baseline amount of anxiety in I think everybody's
Without
life.
a doubt.
But it was yeah. So just for perspective, my family moved to this small community of New Ulm in southern Minnesota. We left family in Fargo to come for my job at the medical center because it was a next stepping stone in kind of this career trajectory that I always thought that I would end up, being a CEO somewhere or just continuing to climb the ladder. And I came here, and it was a great place. But overnight, March 2020 struck, and COVID hit, and we went from creating and building and doing all the things that I loved and was good at
Mm-hmm.
to crisis management. And seeing the toll that it took on my coworkers and my peers and my friends, um, it was really difficult. And at the time, I was pregnant with my second child. Oops,
Oh.
my light is an emotion sensor. I need to separate thing. That may happen again.
All right.
Um, yeah, I was pregnant with my second child, who I had him in August of that year, and it was so I have an infant. We're crisis management. It's all hands on deck, trying to like navigate this change where we're furloughing people and telling them that they either we're not going to hire, but they have to just suck it up and deal with this pandemic. It was really hard. And I ended up, I had a friend and a colleague who actually took his life during this period, and it all hit home, and it kind of made me go, why am I doing this? Like, is this because I didn't feel like I was helping people, and that's what I really liked about healthcare to begin with was the people aspect of it. So I don't know. That was I ended up taking a step back with my work and moving into like I mean like a demotion type of thing. And, they split my role into two, and I took the kind of less responsibility of the two to kind of figure out what I wanted to what direction I wanted to go. And I booked myself a trip on a resilience trip to Sedona, Arizona, and as the timing worked out, my job transitioned like right. My last day in the previous role was the Friday before I left for this trip,
Uh-huh.
and I came back and I was literally starting fresh.
Yeah.
And so that trip was really transformational, just a chance to pause and be really intentional about my own thoughts. But I didn't come out of it with a clear vision of what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do, and I knew that I was changed from this experience. So then it was, oh
Yeah.
crap, now what?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, So, how long would you say you were kind of stuck in this anxiety depressive state where, and like, did that start with COVID, or was that kind of brewing before 2020?
I would say I think it was catalyzed by COVID,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't. I was having to make tough choices about how I was spending my time. Spending evenings instead of just being with my family. I might be out, helping support a board meeting or doing other things that just didn't. It was part of the job, but
So,
it
at
wasn't
that
where I really
time,
wanted to be.
were you putting in like 50, 60 hours a week, or how many hours a week would you say easily?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
didn't count, but
Yeah.
it's not a 40 an hour week
Right.
job, so yeah, I, I
Yeah. So,
I struggled with that.
I bet it was one of those situations where I meant because Kylie and I, my wife and I, had a similar experience where there was no switching off. There was no clear boundaries between start and stop with work and
Hmm.
home. Um, yeah, and when you find yourself in those situations, like burnout is is inevitable.
Hmm.
So definitely COVID was a major catalyst. What else would you say were some of the ingredients? Just overworked, not feeling too passionate about what you were doing, not feeling like you were making much of an impact and helping others as much as you'd hoped. What other kind of ingredients were tossed around in there?
Yeah, I think it really boiled down to my values just didn't align anymore with what I was being asked to do in my work, where they had previously. I felt like I had purpose and meaning. I didn't go into a lot of detail, but I worked in cancer care previously, and helping. I didn't provide direct patient care, but I got to work and help support the people that were doing those really tough jobs. And I felt like I was making a difference. Healthcare has changed a lot, not just because of COVID, but I think just as an industry, healthcare and education, I think, are two that are really broken right now, at least in the U.S. And so I,
Yeah.
I
And
forgot
what
we
do you
were.
think? Would you do you want to expand on what you think is broken in the healthcare system right now?
Yeah. I don't know if I can even put my finger on exactly what it is, but I saw, and I think it has to do with there's not a clear path. Like it's a big bureaucracy. It's expensive, puts a lot of stress on a lot of people, and the people that go into healthcare for a career are doing it because they love people. They're not generally, nurses and doctors. The people that I've worked with are not. They're not doing it because they expect to go put in their 40 hours a week and make a paycheck. They're doing it because they love people and they want to be their caretakers by nature. I'm married to a nurse, by the way. um, I saw more and more people fall out of love with what they were doing, and it became just going through the motions. In fact, the trip that I was on was geared for healthcare professionals. And most of the people that were on that trip with me were burned out doctors, nurse practitioners, physician assistants.
Did the
So
company pay for it?
no,
Okay.
nope. It was something that I chose to do on my own. I'd learned about this bounce back project,
Yeah.
which is a positive psychology kind of approach. The people that formed that did these resilience trips. They still do them. I highly recommend them. I've done two now, but yeah.
Yeah. And what kinds of exercises, like, do you want to share at all? What kind of exercises you went through on that trip?
Yeah. So on the trip, we did a lot of hiking, but
Mm-hmm.
we always started our days and spent most of the morning, I would say, doing well. So I read a book by Richard Rohr, who's he's I believe a Catholic priest, but it's a spiritual approach, not necessarily a religious approach, to like the two halves of life is what he describes. So the first half being about achievement and accomplishments and climbing the career ladder, and the second being more about finding your purpose. And so I was going into this trip being clearly in this first half of life in all respects, and realizing that I really hadn't even. I mean, I've thought about what gives my life purpose, but it really changed during this time.
So, did they help you at all, like, to get really clear on your values in that trip? Like, what you like get real clear on what purpose you feel like you have here on on this planet?
Yeah. So we did a lot with like Brene Brown.
Nice.
Talking about shame, because a lot of it boiled down to why are we doing what we're doing?
Yeah.
Who are we?
Yeah.
And like, where do we lose touch with ourselves along the way that caused us to make these choices, or just
Yeah.
go along by default?
And
And
that's exactly what I mean when I kind of started the podcast about like the world creating zombies. It's these all
hmm
these people that like are doing what they do but don't really know why. And and then it just is almost like that you can almost see it in people. They're just like lobotomized, right? Like
hmm
uh they're just going through their lives, just going through the motions and don't really understand what is the motivation underneath them.
hmm
So no, that's
yeah.
really that really resonates with me what you're saying.
hmm
Um, but cool. Well, let's kind of start talking about the transition. So how did you get the idea that or how did you get clarity on your vision and what you really wanted to do?
hmm so a lot of the work I did a lot of journaling.
Mm.
I've been a journaler since I was a kid. It was something that my ninth grade English teacher really instilled in me, and I still have my old journals. But
Is it
I
like the same time every day? Is it a morning
oh no,
routine? No? Okay.
I wish I've gotten terrible at it. Right now, it's more of a like when I can tell I'm really burned out. Spend some time journaling, but I should do it every day. Um, I started doing. I took some time to just create some space, and I started doing more walking. Like I was walking to and from work instead of taking my car, which I literally took a path through the woods to get to my work. I've forgotten your question, though. I think I've gone
Oh,
on a tangent.
just kind of take us through like
Mm,
what kind of how did you gain clarity on your vision
mm.
that you ultimately acted on?
Yeah. So I tried to do more activities where I could just reflect. And one of those was journaling. One of those was just being outside and by myself. Quiet walking, as my husband calls it, without the earbuds. Um, just taking time to really ground myself in nature and in activities that I find joy. So I mentioned music's always been an important part to me. I realized one of the things that really hit me during this whole like bout of depression and anxiety was how little that I had carried the joyful things that I had done previously, how little I was doing as a new parent and as a career person. Like I'm kind of tearing up even just thinking about it. I made a phone call at one point to our EAP program, and I had not had lunch. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't think I'd had anything to eat that day. I was at the end of my rope. And the woman on the phone, she said, you need to feed your body. Like, it's okay. Like, you just, and even just her giving me space to be like, wow, I've lost touch with these things. I started I started teaching myself ukulele and taking time to, play piano again and to sing and to just do these things that I kind of lost touch with.
Yeah. So what do you think was kind of controlling your actions? Like, I know you kind of talked about, other people's expectations
Mhm.
and like living by default, but like, can you put a point on it at all as to like uh, why you kind of got sucked into this vacuum um, that 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 created you to to take away so many of these joyful things um, that had forgotten about.
Yeah, I think
Do you have any sense? Yeah, go ahet
I've through reflection I've kind of drilled down to what I think was a major piece of it. But I mean the accountability is mine. I myself I didn't prioritize those times and those things that brought me joy. Like mentally I did, but I didn't actually put them into my schedule. I didn't plan to do them. So that's on me. But it really boiled down to I think the impact that our parents have on us is
hmm
huge. And the values that you learn as kids that may or may not be quote unquote normal. Um, my upbringing with one of my parents was really focused on achievement, and that really was the be all end all. And so it's this tug, like if I'm doing music purely for enjoyment, is that really valuable? Am I adding to the world? Like, I know now the answer to that is yes, but at the time, like, if I'm having to choose between advancing my career and taking 30 minutes every day to go play a guitar,
Yeah.
um, I know why I made the choices that I did.
Yeah, it's so funny because I feel like you really hit the nail on the head in that, like, there's always this generational battle, right? And previous generations, like, you've they're filled with this Protestant, like, Midwestern work ethic, right? And it's very clear on, like, what is work and what isn't work.
Mhm.
And, like, so often exercise and, like, doing things for yourself, like going for a
Mhm.
walk, well, that's not work. That's like self-indulgence or
Mhm.
something along those lines. And
Yeah.
I know exactly what you ran up against, because I was in the farming industry, which was when I was a fifth generation farmer. So, like, this is five generations of work ethic, like, built up on top of each other. And it's insane to me just how difficult it is to see some of the most obvious things right in front of your eyes,
Mhm.
and how they can, you know, you can be so clouded by your filter of perception on things. So no, I really like your perspective on that. Um, okay, so let's start talking about, like, the transition. What
Mhm.
how, you decided to you came up with a vision, decided to act on it, and, like, what gave you the courage to do that? Number one, number two, like, what was it? Hmm.
Yeah. So I didn't have a clear vision, but by just taking some time, what I learned about, or not learned, what I remembered about myself was how, like, I've always really enjoyed connecting people with one another, and seeing those people, like, find joy in each other and in that, whatever the relationship is. And so it's community. That was really what was driving me, and I knew that I wanted to do something that really fostered sense of community, especially because of this whole COVID, isolation. Everything was isolated. So I saw a need in our community. I started. The first thing I did, I formed an LLC because I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what the business was, not really. And I rented a booth at our home and health show in town, because I knew that there was something, like, with downtown and how people connect, that I really wanted to address, but I also didn't want to do something that was going to duplicate efforts of some other organization, or do something that really wasn't needed in the community. So I
Where,
took time to listen.
where are we at now in the timeline? Is this 2021, 2022, somewhere in there? Or?
2022, I
Hmm.
think, is when I found it, like, late. So it would be spring then,
Okay.
2023. Um, and I kind of had it in my head that I thought I wanted to form a nonprofit that was focused on building community. But I kind of was thinking I'd go down this co-housing route, talking about multi-generational living, and like, we should come back to that because there's some insights there that just how we engineer and build our communities really makes a difference in how connected we feel. And that's a
100%.
key part, just as important as physical and mental health, is social health. Uh,
What's funny is I'm one of those people that often longs for, like, ancient times for some
mm,
reason. Like, I just feel like this, God, I wish I was, born into, like, native existence. Like, I mean, not
mm,
that, like, pre-colonialism, because I have to imagine that, like, the Native Americans, or, like, the just going back, way back
mhm,
in time, like, they must have had such an incredible sense of community, number one, but it also just, like, a fully enriched life,
mhm.
where, and, yeah, you don't have all the modern convenience, and you might not make it past 40 or 50 years old, but,
Yeah.
that life that you had was so rich, and you were so present. So no, I'm just basically saying that I get what you're talking about. I love the concept of community living, and just how much you can learn from the people in your environment.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so I will come back to that.
All
But
right.
so I rented this booth. I listened. I asked the question like, what's missing from downtown? What would bring you downtown? And what do you feel is missing from the community? And I heard a lot about we miss retail, we downtown especially. I heard a lot about I don't have a reason to go downtown. There's nothing for me to do. Like shops all close by 5, and I don't like to go to the bar,
Yeah.
which is really what was open after 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And so there were some other like concrete things like we don't have a bike shop currently in New Ulm. We don't have a new bookstore. We have a used bookstore. And so there were some takeaways from that really resonated with me and helped form this thing. But I woke up at 3 in the morning, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, and I had this idea in my mind that I just couldn't get out. So I got up and I started doodling on blank piece of paper, and what I ended up drawing, I don't have it like right up, I have it here, but it's a sketch essentially of this community center, this community hub that it really designed for people and around people gathering, and that is what has become now Ulm Sweet Ulm, this place in downtown. So
Well, and so were you largely polling the community people,
mhm.
or was it like business owners? It was just citizens, more or less.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. The people that
citizens.
attended the home and health show, it's a lot of vendors. It's everyday people and families that were coming, mostly local people, not tourists or others from the region. Although there were a few, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was mostly people
My,
from New Ulm.
I love how you kind of took a Peace Corps approach to that, because Kylie and I were in the Peace Corps, and that was one of the things that they so had to hammer in during the training was like, you don't step into the community and just start doing whatever you think needs to get done. You step in and you ask, like, what can we do for you guys? How can we help? What is it that the community is lacking? And then you figure out what kind of projects you want to take on and
Hmm.
what's worth pursuing. So no, it feels that it feels incredible that you approached it that way. I think that's spot on. I think that's a perfect way to approach it. But
Thanks.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right, continue on. So then you have this idea to open a community space based off of what you were hearing from New Ulm locals,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Yep. Found a space, but it wasn't going to be available for about another 9 months or so. And it gave me some time to figure things out. I mentioned I wanted to start a nonprofit. I think it's really important to have this be not just a me thing. Like I was the ball that started rolling, but I was trying to snowball and try to bring other people along with me because I'm one set of eyes and one opinion. I've tried to surround myself and build a board that is really representative of our community and of different perspectives, different ages, and walks of life that can really shed light on that. So started forming this whole thing that became Lykke Communities, our nonprofit board, um, and then also founded the bookstore, which is Lykke Books. And so that was the intent with that was really to establish this retail arm, something that is going to have steady income and be able to help pay the overhead costs of a building and a
yeah,
space, but that we could really marry those two concepts so that it's a free will or a goodwill kind of donation in terms of time, space, materials, paper, all the things.
yeah.
So
And so are you still working in healthcare at this moment, or at
no.
what point did you resign from
Hmm.
from your last job?
So later, it was later that year. After the 3 a.m. Doodle sketch, about 9 months after that, I didn't fully quit. I cut back on my job. I was able to talk to my leader and offered. I wanted to go to like a point 0.8 from a 1.0 FTE full time equivalent to a point 0.8, just to have that day a week. And she was open to it, knowing that I was ultimately going to make a bigger transition. And I ended up leaving healthcare altogether in May of 23. So, was that right? No, yeah, it's been 2 years.
Okay.
So
And
yeah.
then at that point, were you living on savings for a while, or did you go out and get like a bank loan to start this this new nonprofit business that you were working on, or how
Yeah.
did that
So,
all work?
well, to be clear, I have not taken a paycheck since I left Alina.
Wow.
And that, like, um, so something happened on the trail when I was in Sedona. I got a text from my boss that I needed to call her when I got off. And I don't know if Kylie shared this story with you. Okay. I got off the trail, and I was not real excited about calling her, but because I'm on this resilience retreat, because I'm burned out. But she said, we've had a mistake. Like, we've overpaid you by $4.4 million, and we need you to call us because we can't keep that money. And I was like, what? Like, so literally, I'm on this reflective retreat sort of thing. They screw up my paycheck, so it turns out it got keyed. My hourly rate got, or my annual rate got keyed as my hourly rate. And so I have a screenshot of my bank account with the 2 million after taxes, whatever. Obviously, I didn't keep that money. Like, I had it for 5 days, but it was a wake up call, and kind of something that I viewed as a sign or a synchronicity that I needed to just understand that, like, financially we're gonna figure it out. It's
Right.
gonna be okay. I need to make this leap, whatever that leap is.
Yeah.
And so I made the leap. I made the decision to leave my job, and just committed my family. Like, we're going to figure it out. If I have to take side work to be able to figure it out financially, we will. But my husband's mom ended up passing away, from cancer, kind of unexpectedly, within that year, and through, like, we ended up inheriting some things that we never planned on. We didn't know that this was going to be part of the story, and so I've been, just through circumstance, been able to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's not lucky, but it's
Oh.
things
It
just
makes
happen.
it makes perfect sense from my perspective, Brie. I know you can't always explain how things happen the way that they happen, but like,
Hmm.
it's just one of those things where you just have to trust and have faith,
Hmm.
and the more you can release your anxieties and uh, your expectations,
Hmm.
the more these things just kind of fall into place. So
Yeah.
it's no, you can't always put words to it, but it
Yeah.
works itself out the way it does.
Yeah.
Cool.
I definitely have become a believer in this idea of synchronicity.
Yeah.
I was not previously. I didn't even know what it was, and but I don't think there are coincidences. Not like this. Not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Important to pay
Uh,
attention.
right. Oh, super cool. So I know Luca Books. You named it that for a reason. Do you want to
Mhm.
talk about the the book that's based off of?
Yeah. So Luca books. Luca is it's not spelled anything like you might try. It sounds. It's Lykke, and it's a Danish word for happiness.
Okay.
Uh, so when I was working up in Fargo in healthcare, the system I was with didn't really know what to do with our community health hat. So as a nonprofit organization, healthcare organizations and other nonprofits are supposed to be giving back in the community to kind of earn, quote unquote, their tax exempt status. And so they were doing all this stuff, but they didn't really have a strategy around it. And because I was working in cancer care, we worked a lot in the community anyway. So they said, here, you take this. And so I had the opportunity to get involved with a community-wide mental health project with more than 200 organizations that came together to really work on different aspects of it. And I became fascinated with this idea about positive psychology and prevention, and not just about preventing the onset of illness, but how do we not just survive our lives? How do we thrive?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so that is that is the root of of happiness. Is really, I'm learning more and more. It's all about social connection.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the longest study that Harvard has done on people is that's what they found, is that it's really about the people that are the happiest and that live the longest tend to have really strong social networks. positive social networks. And so the idea behind Lykke, I picked this book up in town over Christmas and was reading it, and it just it's short vignettes about Danish culture, which the Scandinavian culture is, they're consistently at the top of the charts in terms of the world's happiest people. So I wanted to know what all those secrets were, and this idea about Lykke it just really stuck with me.
Cool.
So, yeah.
No, that's awesome. But I love that, like, there's books, there's other perspectives that have the power to really impact other people's perspective as well. I mean, I think because that's I think that's one of the world we live in right now is just where there's just so much noise out there. There's so many, everybody's sharing their perspectives, but like the the top ones just kind of make it through to the surface, and it's just really fascinating how just how much information out there, but also just the time that we live in is so exciting because it's just this culmination of thousands of years of humanity, and like there's this book Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. It's a very popular one, very common one, and he kind of puts a real fine point on just demonstrating just how much is out right in front of our eyes that we're not seeing. But at any rate, yeah. Let's okay. So then let's nail down where you're at today. You've got tell us about the bookstore. Tell us about everything you got going on.
Yeah, so Ulm Sweet Ulm exists. We just celebrated our 1 year of being open with our brick and mortar in May of 2025. Yeah, that's exciting. We have
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We have 5 different organizations that are within our roof. We have a yoga instructor who does classes out of our event space. We share space with her. The bookstore is one of the retail arms. So we sell, books, but also sheet music and some instruments. So there's a nod to kind of, passion for music on my end. We just opened our coffee shop. So we had intended to partner with another organization or a couple that we approached, and it just didn't work out for various reasons. So we made the decision to bring that in-house and to do it ourselves. So that launched in March. So we're 2.5 months into that.
Okay.
And it just, I know we're the nonprofit exists. We got a couple of grants to be able to do some youth programs for like middle school and high school kids in our community, and also adults. But we started with kids because that was a gap. So we have a community bike shop in our lower level. So the grant helped to purchase the workstations and the tools and all the equipment for people to be able to work on their bikes and learn the skills to be able to maintain them and fix them. And hopefully this will be something that will spark someone that really wants to pursue like a bike workshop, and maybe that will spawn an idea that they open a shop of their own in our community.
Yeah.
New
Ulm needs a bike shop, and I mean, especially because I love that giant bike trail that they have. Like, it's it's such a nature-centered city, and I loved living there too. When the time that we spent in New Ulm, it's an amazing city to live in. But yes, and this was all self-funded. Did you get any investment, or grants, like city council, from the city? What did you have in terms of their funding sources?
Yeah, so on the nonprofit side, we pursued grants. One of them was through a state grant through Minnesota Department of Transportation. The other one was through a Prairie Lakes Regional Arts Council, so for fine arts type things. On the business side of it, we got a conventional bank loan. Also got both a grant and a small a loan through our Economic Development Authority in New Ulm, so city financing, and then also pursued gap financing. So the bookstores are not cheap to start. We have about $250,000 worth of inventory, and so that was not something. we don't have that kind of money. So
Right.
yeah, so we're paying off loans, but yeah, the coffee shop was self-funded. We were able to do that without getting outside funding. But it's been a mix of
Yeah.
things. But
And financially, I know the first year, 3, 5 can be really ups and downs and rocky, but like, how are things looking from your perspective?
good. I mean, there's
Good.
been I'm definitely still in the learning curve and probably will be for a while. But I feel like at this point the bookstore is stable. The
Yeah.
nonprofit is still in its infancy, but we're doing programming and we have the right people on board that are helping to get that to a steady state also. Um, the coffee shop is very early on and like we're in the waves of like, how is this going? Are we still doing the right thing? And I think we are, but it's, that first year is tough because you don't know how to staff it,
Yeah.
how many people are actually in the shop there, but we're
How,
making it.
are they all part-time employees or do you have full-time employees? Like, how many people are a part of your orbit?
We've got about 12 people total that are so mostly part-time. I have one other person that's not like 40-hour a week full-time, but pretty close. She does all of our social media and events programming. Events because like we will never make it on book sales and coffee alone. It's really about bringing people into the space and engaging. So I knew that was going to be really important to invest in.
Hmm.
But yeah, mostly part time.
Cool. So, what advice do you have for somebody who is in, whatever their dead end job or their life that they're just kind of a zombie, and wants, a significant change, like they know something's not right in their lives, but and they're ready to change. So, what advice do you have for that person?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is so easy to get caught up in the day to day hustle and bustle that we are not good at making space and taking time to pause. And as I've gotten older, I've realized how important that is. If you think it's going back to a musical kind of reference, we play this beautiful music, but every instrumentalist and singer, you rely on breath, like and the pause, and that literally is what fuels the rest of the beauty. And if you don't take it, you won't last long.
Hmm.
So it really, I think, taking that space to get really clear about who you are as a person, your core values, is the best exercise you can do because you don't have to have it figured out. I still don't. I don't have it figured out.
Right.
But I also am trusting. It's a little bit like driving in the dark with your headlights on.
Yeah.
You can't see where you're going. You know it's there. You know where you're headed. You
Yeah.
can't see it, but you can see just enough to get you,
Yeah.
safely there. And I think that learning to trust yourself,
Yeah.
as long as you keep your core values, you know what those are, and you keep your life generally in alignment, your path is going to lead you to where you want to go. But finding that space to really get clear on it is really important.
No, I love it. That's yeah. Again, I think that's spot on advice, and I think the modern world has so many ways to distract yourself. Like, you
Hmm.
imagine a human in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and you might have had like the newspaper or the radio,
Hmm.
but like the modern world, like you've got a distraction device with you at all times,
Yes.
and the minute that your brain like starts to wander off, ooh, maybe I don't really like my life. What do? You pull out your phone and you start watching Instagram or Facebook, and
Yeah.
and then you don't have to face those emotions, right?
Hmm.
Then you don't have to like, and then that that resentment or whatever it is, like just keeps getting deeper and deeper, deeper down underneath the layers until finally one day, you're in a psychiatry office and you're like, I don't know what happened.
Uh huh.
Well,
Yeah.
you're not listening to yourself. You're distracting yourself with Netflix and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and it's not to say that any of those are inherently bad. It's just that we have to know, you have to understand what's going on within yourself
Hmm.
well enough to be able to have the awareness to make the change.
Hmm. I think the other thing that was really important for me and advice that I would give is like I love my family. I love my parents. But also they're really bad at giving me constructive advice.
Uh-huh.
They're too close to the situation. It was really helpful for me to find other people that I could really talk to go back to, that knew me maybe as a kid, that like what was I like? What did I like? What were those things that brought me joy? Because I remembered some of them, but I didn't remember a lot of it that was important. And I think a lot of what I found was I needed to kind of unlearn what I had learned as an adult. It was like what brought me joy as a kid. What were those things? Because we didn't have the devices back then. Nintendo came out when I was a kid, and it wasn't something that was a routine thing.
Right.
So what were
Right.
those things? And that was really going back and remembering those things was really important to then figuring out again where are my strengths and who am I as a person when you take all the noise out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Finding somebody that
This,
you can bounce those ideas off of that's not so close that they're constantly trying to lift you up. You need somebody who's going to give you the hard cold truth about like
yeah.
what
Did
we
you
like.
have an accountability group at all? Like as you were trying to get into, or did you have a network of other bookstore owners or anything like that to kind of draw off of? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The bookstore community is incredibly tight knit. So they, unless you're in the same town, like they don't really view themselves as competitors. Even those that are in the same town often don't. Like we view each other as collaborators. So it's been a really good community to engage with. But I also found some of my acquaintances as an adult that have now become close friends. I reached out to a couple of people that I just said, hey, can we meet up for coffee? Because I really, I admire you and I view you as a mentor. And I'd like to hear a little bit more about kind of how you navigated this and this type of a conversation, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I was able to take, I wasn't really, I was more listening, but I could apply kind of what I was hearing to my own situation and take that then, whatever that next step was going to be.
Mm-hmm. So, was there anybody in your orbit that like did not want you to change, did not approve of you doing this or anything like that, or anybody that was maybe, I mean, you don't have to call out anybody specifically, obviously, but did you, um, did any of those feelings, did you sense any of that where there was somebody like kind of struggling with this change or this idea?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I say this like they had the best intentions. So it's not because somebody had malice or wanted they were fearful for what my future was going to be. And so yeah, I have a close family member who just that like from day one has not been very supportive, has been sounding the alarm about why the sky is falling and throwing away my opportunities. And but also now that I'm on the other side of this and starting to see what this vision is building and coming and bringing to life, um, is more encouraging. But it's getting through those relationships where you think so highly of somebody who's played an important role in your life and being able to also separate from it a bit.
Right. Right.
That's really hard,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
also important.
Yeah. 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 And it's. I swear, there's only like two types of people in the world. Where there's people who just have to grow and change, and then there's people that somehow can kind of settle into that life and they're totally comfortable with that. And there's a part of me that's a little bit jealous of that person, but like the reality is like it's not for me. Like I need to, I can't stay the same person for my
Hmm.
entire life, and I feel this internal dissonance, uh, that just grows and grows until finally it reaches a boiling point, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
I think
Uh,
it came down to core values, and when I realized what mine were, it also highlighted where there were significant differences in other people that were really important to me. And it's there. I still love that person, but I can't. You can't. You're not the same person after you go through that
right.
transformational work. it's not. I just have to be okay that the relationship is going to be different going forward than it was in the past because I've
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
and that's
I
just how it is.
No, I think there's this common belief, or at least intuitively, people, think that like as you transform, as you grow, like your old self is still in there, but the reality is you're dealing with apples and oranges. You've got a person A and person B. So like person B, and so often, this that person A is gone. Like you have to let go of that person. So often, personal growth, I think, is more, or is just as much about elimination as it is about addition or change. You really can't, for example, if, or whatever it is, if you're a smoker, like person B, and you don't want to be a smoker, like person B can't be smoking anymore, and like it becomes an identity shift, right? It's like, well,
Hmm.
I don't want to smoke because I'm not a smoker. I don't want to drink because I'm not an alcoholic, or I no longer drink alcohol, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
There's this fine line, or it's actually not a fine line. It's a person A and a person B, and you have to let go of that old self
Hmm.
to step into the new you. Um, so what are you most grateful for about making the transition, about your new life, about, I know you talked a lot about community and connection with others, but like what else
Hmm.
kind of comes up there? Is that maybe your well, yeah, I'll just let you
Yeah.
answer the question. What are you most grateful for?
It's really those things
Yeah.
that fill my bucket. Like my days are rich.
Yeah.
I have never worked harder in my life for less money, but
Uh-huh.
my days are rich with experiences and conversations that I just that they weren't things that I had the space for previously, and they would be missing. I'm able to being self-employed too, there's I have to make choices about how I'm spending my time, but I am able to prioritize getting like being with my kids and being there for their kindergarten graduation or whatever the thing is. And I was missing a lot of that previously. So I'm really grateful that I've been able to ground and also trust in the relationships that I had with my family and close friends, because the amount of support that I've gotten from people just coming together and saying, we believe in you, we want to help you in whatever way that we can, and just like that has been incredibly gratifying, and
Yeah.
brought many of those relationships to a new depth and richness that I didn't have previously. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that I'm really grateful for about all of this.
Oh, cool. No, that's super cool. So, how many kids do you have? Or
Yeah.
tell me about your family life. Yeah.
Yeah. So my partner is a registered nurse. He's in the midst of his own kind of transition, trying to figure out career path and all that. But I have two little kids. My daughter's almost 9, and my son's almost 5. So we're right in the young childhood parent thing.
Yeah. And so, have you noticed a significant shift in your family dynamics since, when you can kind of compare your old life to your new life? Uh, have you noticed a big difference in your kids and in your family dynamics?
I
Yeah.
I think so. It's kind of hard. There's so many changes that happen when they're little anyway.
Hmm.
Like there's big changes that happen every day, regardless of what the factors were. So it's a little hard to tell on that. But I do think that my relationship with my partner and my husband has been made richer from all of this too. There's a lot of trust. Like we totally reversed roles, because previously I was the breadwinner. Like, and like he stayed home with our kids for a portion of their infancy. And now we've just totally switched. It's all on, the pressure's on him from the financial standpoint. But like, I don't know, we balance each other, and it really, that commitment that we make to each other has really deepened, I think, as a result of it too. It doesn't make the days any less hard, but like, I don't know, there's a deeper level of trust and commitment, I think, since doing all of this.
Cool. Well, I'll end with one final question. What's next? What do you got coming up in your future? What are your hopes for your future? Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm ready for some steady state for a little while.
Yeah.
So my plan is to take some time over the summer. I'll be here most days, as I am, but to take time with my kids to play, to be outside, to create more space. Again, because I'm feeling that need again. Like I need to just make sure I'm grounded and okay. I don't know that I want to add another business in the next year, or beyond. So I don't have anything particularly planned, and I'm really excited about that.
Cool. That sounds great. Yeah, and where can people find you? What's your web address? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you can go to Lykke Books is the lykkebooks.com is our main bookstore website. Ulm Sweet Ulm, so like the town New Ulm, ULM Sweet ULM.com is our community hub. So watch for us there. We're on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And if feel free to reach out if there are people that are interested in having another conversation or just learning a little bit more. That's one of the things that really fills my bucket. So,
Cool.
yeah, thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah, no, I hope you enjoyed sharing your story and being on the podcast. And it's all about. I think it's all about demonstrating. Leading with example, like showing the world that, like, what, you can pursue your dreams. You can live a life in line with your values, and you don't have to remain stuck.
Hmm.
And so, I think just getting these stories out there of people who have walked the path, who have been through it, um, and are incredibly grateful for it. Like that's very powerful, I think.
Thanks for giving an avenue for it. Appreciate you doing this too.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Brie. We will keep in touch.
Sounds great. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got some value out of hearing Brie Taralson's story. If you want to find out more about us and our mission, check out our website at brilliantlifejourney.com.